Admiral Zekthor stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching the stars bend and twist as his fleet traveled through hyperspace. For 300 years, his people had built this armada, 10,000 ships of war, each one perfect in its deadly design. The largest vessels stretched 20 kilometers from bow to stern, their hulls forged from metals found only in the hearts of dying stars. The Vorthak Empire ruled over 47 star systems. They had conquered each world through superior technology and overwhelming force. No species had ever stood against their might and survived. Now they traveled toward a small yellow star, where a young race called humans had dared to expand beyond their home world. Commander Jake Phillips sat in the monitoring station on Luna Base, Earth's moon. His coffee had gone cold hours ago as he watched the sensors. The alien fleet was still 3 days away, but their energy signatures lit up the screens like angry red dots. Intelligence reports said this armada had been traveling for 50 years to reach Earth. "Sir, we're getting more detailed scans now," said Technician Carol Price, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "The lead ships are massive. Some of them are bigger than our entire space stations." Jake rubbed his tired eyes. First contact with the Vorthak had happened 100 years ago. Back then, they had dismissed humans as primitive. They called Earth a backwater world full of creatures barely out of their caves. But when humans began building colonies on Mars and Europa, something changed. The aliens decided that humanity was spreading too far, too fast. Captain Lisa Morgan stood in the observation deck of the research vessel Discovery, floating in the darkness between Earth and Mars. Her job was to study the approaching fleet and learn everything possible about their technology. The enemy ships were beautiful in their own terrible way. Each one looked like it had been carved from a single piece of dark crystal. "Captain, I'm reading power levels that shouldn't be possible," reported her science officer, Lieutenant Pete Johnson. "Their smallest ships put out more energy than our biggest battleships." Lisa nodded grimly. The Vorthak had sent this fleet to end humanity once and for all. They saw humans as insects that needed to be stepped on before they became a real problem. Earth's conventional fleet numbered only 300 vessels. Against 10,000 alien ships, the math was simple and brutal. President Claire Adams looked around the emergency meeting room deep beneath Washington. The Global Defense Council had gathered from every major nation. General Paul Henderson from North America sat across from Admiral Susan Wright from the European Federation. Everyone knew what the intelligence report said. Everyone knew how hopeless their situation looked. "Options?" President Adams asked, though she already knew the answer. "We fight," said General Henderson. "We make them pay for every mile of space, every world they take. Maybe we can hurt them enough that they'll think twice about attacking other species in the future." Admiral Wright leaned forward. "Our simulations show we might destroy 50 of their ships before they overwhelm us completely. It's not much, but it's something." Dr. Nathan Cooper sat quietly in the corner of the room. He was the head of Earth's most secret research division, hidden deep in the mountains of Colorado. While the military leaders talked about conventional warfare, he thought about the project that had consumed his life for the past 20 years. The Vorthak fleet continued its approach, confident and unstoppable. Admiral Zekthor walked through the corridors of his flagship, inspecting the weapon systems. The crystalline power cores hummed with barely contained energy. These cores took decades to grow in the deep caverns of the Vorthak homeworld. Each one could power a small city or unleash destruction capable of cracking a planet's surface. Commander Jake Phillips received another update from the deep space monitors. "The alien fleet is maintaining formation. No signs of slowing down. They'll reach the outer edge of our solar system in 36 hours. His assistant, Lieutenant Amy Green, looked up from her console. "Sir, what do you think they're planning?" Jake had studied every piece of intelligence they had on the Vorthak. "They'll probably start by destroying our outer colonies, Mars, Europa, the mining stations in the asteroid belt. They want to cut off our escape routes before they come for Earth itself." On the approaching flagship, Admiral Zekthor reviewed the battle plans with his senior officers. The human fleet was positioned near their home world. Exactly as expected. The aliens would sweep through the outer system first, destroying everything in their path. Then they would move on Earth itself, leaving no survivors. These humans have shown remarkable growth for such a young species, said Commander Vexhall, the fleet's tactical officer. But they still think in terms of ships and guns. They have no understanding of true warfare. Admiral Zekthor agreed. The humans had surprised everyone by developing space travel so quickly, but their technology was still centuries behind Vorthak science. Their ships were fast but lightly armed. Their weapons could barely scratch Vorthak shields. Back on Earth, President Adams made the final preparations. Every civilian who could be evacuated had been moved to underground shelters. The surface cities stood empty except for essential military personnel. In a few days, those cities might be nothing but glowing craters. Dr. Cooper finally spoke up during the meeting. There might be another option. The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the doctor's reputation. He had been working on classified projects for decades, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "What kind of option?" asked President Adams. "The kind that might actually work," Dr. Cooper replied. "But I need 12 more hours to be certain, and I need permission to activate protocols that we've never tested on this scale." General Henderson frowned. "Doctor, we're facing the largest military force in galactic history. Whatever you're working on, it better be more than just another experimental weapon." Dr. Cooper met the general's eyes. "It's not a weapon in any sense that you would understand. It's something completely different. Something that might give us the only real chance we have." The Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Admiral Zekthor felt satisfaction as he saw the small human fleet waiting near their homeworld. They were brave to face him, but bravery would not save them from the inevitable. As the alien ships began their final approach, Dr. Cooper was already implementing his plan. Hidden throughout the solar system were devices that the Vorthak could not detect. These devices would either save humanity or witness its destruction. The battle for Earth was about to begin, but it would not be the kind of battle that anyone expected. Dr. Nathan Cooper walked through the corridors of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, 3 miles beneath the Colorado Mountains. The facility had been built during the old Cold War, but now it housed Earth's most advanced research projects. Few people knew what really happened in these deep tunnels. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez met him at the entrance to Laboratory 7. She was the military liaison for Project Prometheus, the most classified program in human history. For 20 years, they had been working on something that would have seemed impossible to earlier generations. "Doctor, the quantum resonance nodes are all in position," Amy reported as they walked toward the main control room. "We have them scattered throughout the solar system, exactly as you specified." The control room was filled with screens and equipment that looked nothing like conventional military hardware. Dr. Cooper had assembled the brightest minds from 12 different countries, physicists, engineers, and computer specialists who had spent their entire careers pushing the boundaries of known science. "Status report," Dr. Cooper called out as he entered. Dr. Rachel Green looked up from her console. She was the team's expert on quantum mechanics, a field that most people found impossible to understand. "All nodes are operational, sir. We're maintaining quantum entanglement across distances that should be theoretically impossible." Dr. Cooper nodded. While the Vorthak had spent 3 centuries perfecting traditional warfare, humanity had taken a completely different path. Earth's scientists had discovered how to weaponize the strange laws of quantum physics on a massive scale. Colonel Ben Hayes joined them in the control room. He was the project's senior military officer, a man who understood both warfare and cutting-edge science. "Doctor, I still don't completely understand how this works. Can you explain it one more time?" Dr. Cooper walked over to a large display screen. "Traditional weapons work by applying force. You shoot a projectile or fire an energy beam. The Vorthak have perfected this approach over thousands of years, but we discovered something they never considered." He pointed to a diagram showing quantum particles connected by invisible lines. "At the smallest level, reality operates according to quantum mechanics. Particles can be connected across any distance, sharing properties instantly. We call this quantum entanglement." Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez leaned forward. And you've figured out how to entangle entire spaceships? Not exactly, Dr. Cooper replied. We've learned how to scan the quantum signatures of enemy vessels, then create corresponding entangled particles in our weapon systems. When we activate the disruptor, those entangled particles cause the atomic bonds in the target ships to simply stop working. The concept was so advanced that even some of the team members struggled to fully grasp it. Dr. Mark Phillips, their youngest scientist, had spent 5 years just working on the mathematical equations. The quantum resonance nodes scattered throughout. The solar system were no larger than refrigerators, but each one contained technology that was decades ahead of anything else humanity had built. Admiral Kate Sullivan arrived at the facility for the final briefing. She commanded Earth's defense fleet, the 300 ships that would engage the Vorthak in conventional battle. What she didn't know was that her fleet's real mission had nothing to do with winning through traditional combat. Admiral, your ships need to get close to the enemy vessels, Dr. Cooper explained. Every energy exchange, every weapon blast gives us more data about their quantum signatures. We need detailed scans of at least 60% of their fleet for the weapon to achieve full effectiveness. Admiral Sullivan studied the tactical displays. Doctor, you're asking my people to fly into a meat grinder. The Vorthak ships will tear us apart. That's why we've prepared AI-controlled backup systems for every vessel, Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez explained. Your crews will evacuate to shielded bunkers before the battle begins. The ships will be piloted remotely. This was the hardest part for the military leaders to accept. Earth's entire conventional fleet would be sacrificed as a data-gathering exercise. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of military hardware that humanity had built would be thrown away to feed information into the quantum scanning systems. Dr. Cooper understood their reluctance. Admiral, I know how this looks, but conventional warfare cannot win this battle. The Vorthak fleet is too powerful, too advanced. Our only chance is to use a weapon they cannot understand or defend against. Back on the approaching Vorthak flagship, Admiral Zekthor reviewed intelligence reports about human technology. His science officers had analyzed every piece of data they could gather. The humans used fusion reactors, particle beam weapons, and magnetic field shields. All of it was primitive compared to Vorthak capabilities. What the aliens could not detect were the quantum resonance nodes. These devices operated outside the normal spectrum of matter and energy. They existed in a state that conventional sensors could not register. The Vorthak had never encountered technology based on quantum mechanics at this level. Dr. Cooper returned to his private laboratory to review the final calculations. The quantum disruptor array required precise timing and enormous amounts of energy. They would draw power from fusion plants on Earth, Mars, and Europa simultaneously. The energy requirements were so massive that entire continents would experience blackouts during the activation sequence. Dr. Susan Martinez, the team's computer specialist, worked on the targeting algorithms. Doctor, we're going to need quantum signatures from multiple points on each enemy vessel. The scanning process will take time. How much time? Dr. Cooper asked. At least 20 minutes of continuous data gathering per target ship. With 10,000 vessels in their fleet, we'll need the conventional battle to last several hours. This was the most dangerous part of the plan. Admiral Sullivan's fleet would have to survive long enough to scan the majority of the enemy ships. Even with AI pilots and remote control systems, it would be a brutal sacrifice. President Claire Adams arrived at Cheyenne Mountain for the final authorization. She had been briefed on Project Prometheus only 48 hours earlier. The moral weight of the decision pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. Doctor, you're asking me to authorize what amounts to genocide, she said quietly. Dr. Cooper met her eyes. Madam President, the Vorthak have made their intentions clear. They plan to exterminate every human being in the galaxy. We can either die as victims or survive as victors. The intercepted alien communications left no room for doubt. The Vorthak saw humanity as a disease that needed to be eliminated completely. No negotiations, no surrender, no mercy. They intended to sterilize every world that humans had touched. Colonel Hayes provided the final technical briefing. The quantum disruptor works by severing the atomic bonds that hold matter together. The enemy ships won't explode. they'll simply dissolve into component atoms. No debris, no radiation, no environmental damage. President Adams signed the authorization with a heavy heart. In a few hours, Earth's fleet would engage the most powerful military force in galactic history. The battle would either mark humanity's extinction or its emergence as a major power among the stars. As the Vorthak fleet approached the outer edge of the solar system, Dr. Cooper made the final preparations. 20 years of research and development would be tested in the next few hours. Humanity's survival depended on technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The quantum resonance nodes hummed with barely contained energy, waiting for their moment of activation. Admiral Zekthor watched with satisfaction as his massive fleet dropped out of hyperspace. The stars stopped bending and twisting, replaced by the steady light of a small yellow sun. Ahead of them lay the human solar system, with its primitive colonies and single-inhabited world. The Vorthak formation was a sight to inspire terror across the galaxy. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect battle lines, their dark hulls reflecting the distant sunlight. The smallest vessels were larger than human destroyers. The largest dreadnoughts could house entire cities within their armored corridors. Captain Steve Turner sat in the pilot seat of his fighter, the Falcon's Edge, hidden behind one of Jupiter's moons. He was one of the few human pilots who would actually fly during the battle. Most of Earth's fleet would be controlled by artificial intelligence, but a handful of experienced pilots were needed for the most dangerous missions. "All units, this is Fleet Command," came Admiral Sullivan's voice over the communication system. "Remember, our job is to gather intelligence. Every second you stay alive gives our scientists more data about enemy capabilities." Steve knew the real truth about their mission, though most pilots did not. They were not trying to win through conventional combat. They were feeding information into the most advanced weapon system humanity had ever built. Commander Janet Foster piloted the stealth ship Phantom through the outer system. Her vessel was packed with quantum scanning equipment that could analyze enemy ships without being detected. She was the key to the entire operation, the one who would gather the detailed information needed to make Dr. Cooper's weapon work. "Phantom, to control," she whispered into her microphone. "I'm getting clear readings on the lead elements of their fleet. The quantum signatures are more complex than we expected." Back in Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Cooper and his team monitored every piece of incoming data. The scanning process was working, but slowly. Each enemy ship required multiple readings from different angles to build a complete quantum profile. The Vorthak fleet began moving toward the inner system with steady purpose. Admiral Zekthor had fought dozens of battles across the galaxy. He knew how to crush an inferior enemy while minimizing his own losses. "Deploy the scout wings," he ordered. "I want detailed information about human defensive positions before we begin the main assault." Smaller Vorthak vessels broke away from the main formation, racing ahead to probe Earth's defenses. These scouts were each the size of human cruisers, but they moved with surprising speed and grace. Captain Turner received the order to intercept. "Falcon's Edge engaging enemy scouts," he reported, pushing his fighter to maximum acceleration. Behind him, 50 other pilots followed in tight formation. The first contact between human and alien forces came near the orbit of Mars. Turner's weapons locked onto a Vorthak scout ship and fired. His particle beams struck the enemy vessels, shields causing them to flare with brilliant light. The alien ship responded with a barrage that nearly vaporized Turner's entire squadron. "This is Falcon's Edge," Turner called out, barely dodging another enemy blast. "Their shields are stronger than our intelligence report suggested. We're not even scratching them." This was exactly what Dr. Cooper had expected. The conventional battle would be hopeless from a military standpoint. But every weapon exchange gave the quantum scanners more information about Vorthak technology. Admiral Zekthor smiled as he watched the first skirmish unfold on his tactical displays. The humans fought with courage, but their weapons were pathetically weak. His scouts were barely using 10% of their defensive capabilities. "Sir, the enemy pilots show exceptional skill," reported Commander Vexhall. "Their ships are inferior, but they're using advanced tactics." "It doesn't matter, Admiral," Zekthor replied. Skill cannot overcome such a massive technological disadvantage. Commander Foster moved her stealth ship closer to the main alien fleet. The Phantom's quantum scanners were working at maximum capacity, gathering detailed readings on ship after ship. Her sensors showed energy patterns that human science had never encountered before. "Control, I'm reading power signatures that don't match any known physics," she reported. "These ships are using some kind of crystalline energy source that generates incredible amounts of power." Dr. Cooper reviewed the incoming data streams. The Vorthak technology was indeed more advanced than they had expected, but the quantum scanning process was working. They now had complete profiles on nearly 200 enemy vessels. The battle escalated as Admiral Sullivan's main fleet moved to engage. Earth's largest battleships opened fire with everything they had. Fusion torpedoes, particle beam arrays, and magnetic railguns all focused their firepower on the approaching alien vessels. Captain Lisa Morgan watched from her position aboard the Discovery as humanity's finest warships threw themselves against the Vorthak formation. The enemy shields absorbed hit after hit without showing any signs of weakness. When the aliens returned fire, human ships died in brilliant explosions. The battleship Freedom, pride of Earth's fleet, lasted exactly 7 minutes against 3 Vorthak heavy cruisers. Its armor was designed to withstand anything humans had ever built, but it crumpled like paper under alien weapons fire. Admiral Sullivan, safely evacuated to a command bunker on Earth, watched her fleet being systematically destroyed. Each lost ship represented years of construction and billions of dollars in resources. But every sacrifice was feeding data into the quantum weapons system. "Ma'am, we've lost 60% of our fleet," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Dan Murphy. "The AIs are performing better than human pilots would have, but the technology gap is too wide." Admiral Sullivan nodded grimly. "Order all remaining units to concentrate on gathering scanner data. We need those quantum signatures." Captain Turner's fighter squadron had been reduced to 12 ships out of the original 50. He flew through a debris field that had once been the cruiser Independence, dodging pieces of twisted metal and frozen atmosphere. "Falcon's Edge to all units," he called out. "Form up on me. We're making another scanning run on those dreadnoughts." The largest Vorthak ships were moving toward Earth itself, confident that nothing could stop them. Their weapons could crack continents and boil oceans. Against such power, human technology seemed like stone knives and wooden clubs. But Commander Foster's stealth ship continued its deadly game of hide-and-seek among the alien fleet. The Phantom darted between massive enemy vessels, its scanners recording quantum signatures from every possible angle. "Control, I've got detailed readings on over 4,000 enemy ships," she reported. "The quantum profiles are complete enough for targeting solutions." Dr. Cooper felt a moment of hope. They were approaching the 60% threshold needed for the weapon to achieve maximum effectiveness. But the conventional battle was reaching its end. Earth's fleet was nearly gone. Admiral Zekthor surveyed the wreckage of human resistance with satisfaction. These creatures had fought better than expected, but the outcome was never in doubt. In another hour, his fleet would be in position to begin bombarding the human homeworld. "Sir, we're detecting some unusual energy readings throughout the system," reported his science officer. "There are quantum fluctuations that don't match any known technology." Admiral Zekthor dismissed the report with a wave. "Probably just interference from their primitive fusion reactors. Continue the advance." The alien commander had no way to know that hidden throughout the solar system, quantum resonance nodes were powering up for activation. Dr. Cooper's weapon was nearly ready to fire. Captain Turner led the last surviving fighters in a desperate charge against the alien flagship itself. It was a suicide mission designed to provide final scanning data on the most important enemy vessel. As Earth's final defenders flew toward their doom, the real battle was about to begin. Dr. Nathan Cooper stood in the main control room of the Cheyenne Mountain facility, watching the data streams flow across dozens of monitor screens. The conventional battle above was nearly over. Earth's fleet had been reduced to scattered fragments, but their sacrifice had accomplished its purpose. "Doctor, we now have complete quantum signatures on 8,200 enemy vessels," reported Dr. Rachel Green from her station. "That's over 80% of their fleet. Well above the minimum threshold needed for activation, Lieutenant." Colonel Amy Rodriguez monitored the power grid connections throughout the solar system. All fusion plants are online and ready. Mars Colony, Europa Station, and Earth's primary generators are all feeding power into the quantum resonance network. The energy requirements for the weapon were staggering. Every major power source in human space would be needed to activate the quantum disruptor arrays simultaneously. Entire continents would lose power during the activation sequence, but it would only last for a few seconds. Captain Lisa Morgan watched from her observation post as the remaining human ships retreated to extreme range. The Discovery sensors showed the massive Vorthak fleet moving into final position around Earth. In less than an hour, they would begin planetary bombardment. Admiral Zekthor felt supreme confidence as his armada took up bombing positions. The pathetic human resistance had been crushed completely. Now came the final phase, the complete elimination of this troublesome species. "Sir, I'm still reading those unusual quantum fluctuations," reported his science officer, Commander Yexnal. "The energy patterns are stronger now, coming from multiple locations throughout the system." Admiral Zekthor frowned. "Could it be some kind of new weapon?" "Unknown, sir. The readings don't match anything in our databases, but the power levels are significant." The alien commander considered this information. Human technology was primitive, but these creatures had shown a disturbing tendency to develop new capabilities quickly. Perhaps they had one final surprise prepared. "Raise our defensive shields to maximum strength," Admiral Zekthor ordered, "and prepare to accelerate the bombardment schedule. I want this world sterilized within the hour." Deep beneath Colorado, Dr. Cooper made his final checks of the quantum disruptor system. 20 years of research and development had led to this moment. The weapon existed at the cutting edge of theoretical physics, using principles that most scientists said were impossible. "All quantum resonance nodes are synchronized," reported Dr. Mark Phillips from the targeting station. "We have stable entanglement links with target vessels across the entire enemy fleet." Colonel Ben Hayes coordinated with the remaining military units throughout the solar system. "Doctor, our surviving ships have withdrawn to safe distances. All personnel are in shielded bunkers. You're cleared for activation." President Claire Adams stood in the observation gallery above the control room. She had come to witness either humanity's greatest victory or its final desperate gamble. The weight of genocide pressed down on her shoulders, but the intercepted Vorthak communications left no doubt about their intentions. Commander Janet Foster brought her stealth ship Phantom to its final position behind one of Saturn's moons. Her quantum scanners had provided the detailed information needed to target the alien fleet. Now she could only watch and hope. "All stations report ready," called out Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez. "Quantum disruptor arrays are fully charged and awaiting activation command." Dr. Cooper looked around the control room at the faces of his team. Dr. Green at the quantum mechanics station, Dr. Phillips handling targeting calculations, and a dozen other brilliant scientists who had dedicated their lives to this project. They had pushed the boundaries of known physics to create something that should have been impossible. "Beginning activation sequence," Dr. Cooper announced. Throughout the solar system, quantum resonance nodes began their final preparations. These devices, no larger than refrigerators but containing technology decades ahead of anything else humanity had built, hummed with barely contained power. The process was invisible to conventional sensors. The Vorthak fleet continued its approach to Earth, completely unaware that every atom in their ships was being quantum entangled with corresponding particles in the human weapon arrays. Admiral Zekthor received reports from his fleet commanders. "Sir, all bombardment groups are in position. We can begin planetary sterilization on your command." "Excellent," the alien commander replied. "Target their major population centers first. I want these creatures to see their civilization burning before they die." But something was happening that Admiral Zekthor could not detect. In the deepest levels of quantum reality, connections were being formed between his ships and the human weapon system. Every atom of crystalline power core, every molecule of rare metal hull, every living cell of Vorthak crew was being linked to the quantum disruptor arrays. "Quantum entanglement at 100%, Dr. Green reported. All Target vessels are fully synchronized with our disruptor fields. Dr. Cooper took a deep breath. The moment had arrived. 300 years of Vorthak shipbuilding, representing the greatest military force in galactic history, was about to face a weapon that operated according to laws of physics they had never imagined. Power grid shows all systems ready, Lieutenant. Colonel Rodriguez called out. Fusion plants are at maximum output. All resonance nodes are fully charged. The energy requirements were so massive that the artificial lights in the control room dimmed slightly. Across 3 worlds, power grids strained to feed electricity into the quantum weapon system. Captain Steve Turner, one of the few surviving human pilots, watched from his battered fighter as the alien fleet prepared for final bombardment. He had no idea what Dr. Cooper's secret weapon could do, but he prayed it would be enough. Final authorization request, Dr. Cooper said, looking up at President Adams in the observation gallery. President Adams thought about the 2 billion people hiding in shelters beneath Earth's surface. She thought about the human colonies that would be next if the weapon failed. She thought about the species that had spent centuries preparing to commit genocide against her people. You have authorization, she said quietly. Activate the quantum disruptor. Dr. Cooper's hand moved toward the activation controls. Around him, his team made their final preparations. The quantum resonance nodes throughout the solar system reached peak power levels. Activating in 3, 2, 1. Admiral. Zekthor was reviewing bombardment targets when his science officer suddenly cried out in alarm. Sir, massive quantum flux throughout the fleet. Every ship is showing impossible energy readings. But there was no time to respond. The quantum entanglement process was complete, and Dr. Cooper had just pressed the activation button. In that instant, the fundamental bonds that held matter together began to fail throughout the Vorthak fleet. Not through explosion or energy discharge, but through the simple cessation of atomic cohesion. The quantum disruptor had been activated when battle for Earth was about to end in a way that no one could have predicted. The quantum disruptor activated without sound or flash of light. Dr. Nathan Cooper pressed the button, and across the solar system, reality itself responded to humanity's most advanced weapon. The effect was instant and absolute. Admiral Zekthor had barely enough time to realize something was wrong before his flagship began to dissolve. The massive vessel didn't explode or catch fire. Instead, the atomic bonds that held its matter together simply stopped working. Crystalline power cores, rare metal hulls, and living tissue all came apart at the molecular level. The alien commander watched in horror as his hands became transparent, then faded into a cloud of harmless atoms. His bridge crew, his mighty ship, and his dreams of conquest all vanished in the span of 3 seconds. 10,000 ships and 2 million Vorthak lives ceased to exist without violence, debris, or even noise. Captain Steve Turner stared in complete shock at the empty space where the alien armada had been. One moment, the sky was filled with massive warships preparing to destroy Earth. The next moment, there was nothing but a faint cloud of dispersed particles glowing softly in the sunlight. Control, this is Falcon's Edge, he radioed, his voice filled with disbelief. The enemy fleet is gone, all of it. There's nothing left but dust. In the Cheyenne Mountain control room, Dr. Cooper and his team watched their instruments in amazement. The quantum disruptor had worked beyond their most optimistic calculations. Every single alien vessel had been affected simultaneously. Not one ship had escaped. Doctor, the quantum signatures show complete atomic dissolution, reported Dr. Rachel Green, her voice shaking with emotion. We didn't just destroy their fleet, we completely unmade it. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez monitored the power grids as they slowly returned to normal operation. The massive energy drain was over. Across 3 worlds, lights began coming back on as fusion plants redirected power to civilian use. President Claire Adams stood in the observation gallery, watching the celebration in the control room below. The weapon had worked, but she felt no joy. 2 million intelligent beings had just died in seconds, victims of a war they had started but could never have understood. Commander Janet Foster brought her stealth ship out from behind Saturn's moon. Her sensors confirmed what everyone was seeing. Where the largest military fleet in galactic history had been, only scattered atoms remained. The Vorthak Empire's centuries of shipbuilding had been undone in an instant. The news spread across Earth within minutes. Emergency broadcast interrupted regular programming in every language. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious through scientific achievement that bordered on the impossible. Captain Lisa Morgan aboard the Discovery began collecting samples of the atomic cloud that had once been the alien fleet. Her analysis would help scientists understand exactly what the quantum weapon had done. For now, it was enough to know that Earth was safe. The victory had consequences that reached far beyond the solar system. Within days, alien civilizations across the galaxy learned about the destruction of the Vorthak Armada. Species that had feared the Vorthak for thousands of years suddenly realized that humanity possessed weapons beyond conventional understanding. Ambassador Kethvar of the Altarian Republic was the first alien diplomat to request a meeting with Earth's government. His people had been planning their own expansion into human space, but those plans were quickly abandoned. Any species that could make the mighty Vorthak simply disappear was not one to be challenged. "We come seeking peaceful relations," Ambassador Kethvar transmitted from his ship at the edge of the solar system. "The Altarian Republic wishes to establish trade agreements and cultural exchanges with humanity." President Adams found herself dealing with a complete reversal of Earth's diplomatic position. Instead of being seen as a primitive backwater, humanity was now viewed as a major galactic power. Her desk was flooded with diplomatic requests from alien civilizations eager to avoid humanity's displeasure. Dr. Cooper and his team became reluctant heroes of a war that had lasted only a few hours. The quantum disruptor technology was immediately classified at the highest levels. Only a handful of people would ever know the full details of how the weapon worked. The scientific implications were staggering. Dr. Mark Phillips led a team that began developing peaceful applications of quantum entanglement technology. Faster-than-light communication, instant transportation, and energy transmission across vast distances all became theoretical possibilities. But the most immediate effect was psychological. Earth's children would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was feared and respected in equal measure. The species that had once dismissed humans as primitive now whispered about the strange weapons that could unmake matter itself. General Paul Henderson reviewed the military situation with President Adams. "Madam President, we've received stand-down orders from every known hostile species. The Krex Empire, the Vorthak client states, even the machine intelligences of the Outer Rim. Nobody wants to test our capabilities." Admiral Kate Sullivan began planning the reconstruction of Earth's conventional fleet. The quantum weapon was too powerful for routine use, but humanity still needed ships for exploration and peaceful contact with other species. 3 months after the battle, Captain Turner was promoted to squadron commander and assigned to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Altarian Republic. His fighter squadron would escort the new ambassadorship as it traveled to establish formal relations. Dr. Cooper returned to his laboratory beneath Cheyenne Mountain, where he worked on even more advanced projects. The quantum disruptor had proven that human science could achieve the impossible. He wondered what other breakthroughs might be waiting in the depths of theoretical physics. The empty space where the Vorthak fleet had died became a memorial site. Ships from across the galaxy would come to observe the place where 2 million beings had vanished without trace. Some came to pay respects. Others came to learn what they could about human capabilities. Earth's population emerged from their underground shelters to find a world transformed. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and survived through ingenuity rather than brute force. The age of human expansion among the stars could now begin in earnest. President Adams addressed the United Nations 6 months after the victory. "Today we stand not as conquerors, but as protectors of the peace. Our message to the galaxy is simple. Earth welcomes friendship and trade with all peaceful species. But any aggression against humanity or our allies will be met with swift and absolute response." The quantum disruptor remained hidden in its mountain fortress, maintained by Dr. Cooper's team and a small group of military specialists. Its existence was denied by official sources, but every alien intelligence service in the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible. The species that had once been dismissed as primitives now commanded respect through demonstrated power that transcended normal understanding. As new colonies spread to distant stars and human traders established roots throughout the galaxy, one fact remained clear to every alien civilization: never underestimate the ingenuity and determination of Earth's children. The Vorthak had learned this lesson, but they would never be able to share it with anyone else.